Okay, we have a quorum present. It is 6:02. And so we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. If anyone would like, they can stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, or you can stay seated for silent meditation.
With allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So we need to approve the minutes from the November 2024 regular monthly business meeting. Okay. Barbara has moved that we approve those. Do we have a second? Thank you, Bill. Is there any discussion or corrections that we need on those minutes? Okay, if there's no discussion, then all in favor of approving the minutes from November 2024, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No abstentions. That passes. Do we have any public input?
I have some comment cards to read.
Okay.
First one says, Sam was wonderful. I am 78, needed a document from my phone. They were so great to assist me. Thank you. Next one says, you guys are doing good, but bad, because you should let the age 13 get a library card on their own. Next one, when I visit my mom next door at the care center, I often need to wind down, so I stop in to use the library before and after I see her. Everyone has been fabulous. Thanks. Next one, David is the best. Next one, great. Short for them. You're really doing a fantastic, great work for the community. I appreciate you. Request consideration of daytime Qigong class and a coffee machine. Thank you. You are doing awesome. I love you. You should add bean bags and blankets to a corner because it would be cozy. That's all the comment cards.
Do we share those with the employees? Do we have a way to do that?
Yes, we do.
Especially ones that name an employee by
Yeah.
name who's done a good job. We really try to give a kudos to those staff members. And we also received a letter to whom it may concern. Our names are Danielle Dole, Alexandra Storin, and Mandy Bucci, and we are teachers at Guilderland Elementary School. Enclosed, please find a review that a student wrote from our third grade class. They had to choose a business, product, or place that they loved and write a review to convince other people of their opinion. Not only did they have to write their opinion, but they had to give convincing reasons why they thought that opinion. We thought they did such a good job, we wanted to share their review with you. We hope you enjoy and maybe even use their review to convince others that your business, product, or place is as awesome as we say it is. Thank you and have a wonderful day. And they left contact information to reach out to them. The review, which I will be giving to our marketing person. Do you like reading awesome books and going to special events? Then Guilderland Public Library is the place to go. In my opinion, GPL is the best library in New York State. One reason that GPL is the best library is because it has the best special events. For example, they have a Dungeons and Dragons club and a silent book club for adults only. And they have Halloween booths for Halloween where you can wear a costume. One time I waited forever for the Halloween booths, but I still had fun. It was worth the wait. Another reason that GPL is the best library in New York State is because of the awesome books. For example, you can get toddler books to adult books and Weird But True to Dragon Masters. There are so many graphic novels from Smile to Babysitter's Club. One last reason is you can get so many books at one time. For example, you can get at least 15 books at one time. One time I got 12 all in one day. It was hard to carry. Go to the GPL now from the review entitled The Best Library.
What grade was this chocolate?
Third grade.
That's so.
So we will be reaching out to Guilderland Elementary to provide them with one of our Groofus the cows and some other library swag. So this is awesome.
Commend them on the writing teacher for somebody who can get a kid to write like that.
Mhm.
They're probably what, 8 or 9? They're great.
Yeah, he's Yeah. Just curious, it seemed like we had more comment cards than usual. Are we doing anything to encourage that, or is that just a random fluctuation?
It might be 2 months worth of them.
Yeah, it is 2 months
Oh,
worth,
yeah.
yeah.
Good point, good point.
But still is.
But it is more than, like,
Yeah.
sometimes we go in there and it's empty, so this is a really good amount. But no, we've done nothing to encourage people, so it's great.
Oh, yeah, you have. You've done a good job.
Well, there we go.
He's shaking people down in the parking lot.
I'm worse than yelled
You like
out
that,
there.
Brief public comment. Do we have any other public comment?
Yeah, I have a couple.
Okay,
Just a comment on the Christmas decorations at the library. I thought they were very good. But I would like to see a couple of Christmas trees. Like a full-size Christmas tree, the typical 5 or 6 foot tall Christmas tree with all the nice lights on it. I think it would be a good idea to put one down by the children's library with all that floor space. I think I would recommend that. I think it would be a good idea to have one out here, like 2 Christmas trees. And it would be nice to have a nice wreath, a nice big wreath outside the building, because it gets dark around 4:30 in December. And I know the library closes at 8, 4 days a week. I think it would be nice to drive by the library and see a nice big wreath up there for the holidays. Those are my recommendations, but the decorations you did have up, I thought were terrific. And I've got another issue to talk about, which is the issue that we were talking about at the end of the November meeting, because there wasn't a December meeting. When Mike Mike referred to the fact that you're possibly going to revisit having a cafe. And if you do that, I think that's a good idea if you do it. I mean, I'm like 50-50. I'm still 50-50 as to whether or not it will work, because obviously the one that we tried was a total train wreck. Okay. And I think it's a good idea to repeat some of the things that were not addressed the last time the library tried to do it. First of all, my understanding is you issued an RFP back in 2021 and nobody showed up. And that in and of itself is not a good sign. So you went out and found someone to do it. And as a result of that, when you read the report, the racism report, it's very clear to me anyways, as one of the big takeaways, that the library didn't know how to manage the relationship between the library and the cafe. And and on top of that, the library was opened up long before a lot of things that should have been squared away weren't squared away. Specifically, things like total confusion about the use of that kitchen. It should have been squared away long before the cafe opened up. There was an issue about who's gonna clean the cafe, spelled out clearly in the contract. So the contract copy should have gone to the library owners, the library and the owners, and there would have been no confusion. A couple other things here. According to the library staff, what was originally agreed upon with the cafe operations and procedures has not been upheld. This is right out of the report. I'm just, reiterating that. The co-owner cited several hurdles, making it difficult for the cafe to operate, all of which were not contemplated well enough in advance by the executive director or the board. Another one is food preparation equipment, storage requirements, and related unresolved operational needs were not defined adequately during contract negotiation. That should have been cleared away long before the cafe was allowed to open, in my estimation. And one other thing that a couple other things.
and Ray, because we went over the public comment policy that we've confirmed, you can take another minute or two, but we're past the allotted time.
Okay. The totally stolen, I mean, that should never been an issue. I mean, that's just an issue that it's very clear when you read that report, that the relationship between the library and the cafe ownership was just totally fractured. And I would recommend, if you're gonna do it again, that, you should have a small group of people that even after the cafe opens up, like the owners and maybe the director and one of your assistants and somebody, and one person from the, trustees, have a follow-up meeting for at least the first 2 months you open up the cafe for maybe 10 or 15 minute meeting once a week and find out what's not working. Because you're gonna have a few wrinkles because you've never had a cafe in this library before. I don't know if that ever took place, but if it did, it certainly didn't work.
Thank you so much. Okay, if there is no other public input, we will move on to the personnel actions. So we have a number on here. I'm going to roll through them all, and then we'll just vote to approve at the end. So the personnel actions are to accept the resignation of Wilsenia Ocasio, Librarian 1, on November 29th, 2024, to accept the resignation of Inja Wang, part-time library clerk, on December 10th, 2024, to accept the change of status of Joanne Mulligan, lifelong education librarian 1, from part-time to full-time, effective December 11th, 2024, to accept the appointment of Allison Williams, cultural enrichment librarian 1, on December 11th, 2024, to accept the appointment of Caroline Bolabo, marketing specialist, on January 8th, 2025, and to accept the appointment of Christina Daddy Esposito, youth services and outreach librarian 1, on January 8th, 2025. Do we have a motion to accept those personnel
Make
actions?
a motion.
Thanks, Mike. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, other Mike. Is there any comments, discussion before we go?
We just need to correct the year on the
Yeah.
Wilsenia.
Oh, yeah.
That's about it.
Okay, with that slight correction to the year, all in favor of accepting those personnel actions? Anyone opposed? And no abstentions. Thank you. George, you're up with the treasurer's report for November and December.
All right, so I think what we learned last time we met 2 months ago was, before I start talking about the financial statements, I should ask, does everybody have a copy of the financial statements? I think I missed that, so. The very first one should be the December financials that will have 12/31 on the balance sheet, in the middle of the upper page. And I thought what we would do is just look at December because it incorporates November. And I don't think on the balance sheet, I think the only thing you'll notice is that on line 10, accounts payable seemed very high in November. It was $338,000. And we did receive the invoice for the New York State retirement contribution. So that is in that number at 293,386. And then it was paid in December. So you see it go back down to the point that we practically have no accounts payable. And I think with that change, and then the other change is that line 2, the short-term investments, went down because that was paid, as well as the operating expenses from December. Any questions on the balance sheet? All right, looking at the statements of revenue, expenses, and changes in that position. If you look at the year-to-date numbers, we're favorable on operating revenue by 28,000, favorable on operating expenses by 164,000. Most of the favorable operating expenses are in the first 3 line items, salary and wages, fringe benefits, and library materials. I believe that Pete said that some of the library materials are on back order and difficult to get right now. So there is a slight lag in that, but we are under budget in positions which have been fairly consistent throughout this year. I can't remember if I just said in line 8, the fringe benefits, the year-to-date has 519, which is skewed because of the retirement contribution. is in that number, the 293. We had budgeted 310,000. When we put the budget together, we get estimates from the state controller's office. And when we go to pay it, they do give us a cash discount for paying it sort of, a month or two early, which was pretty substantial. It was almost, I think, 14,000 from what I remember them saying, which is why we're a little bit favorable there. And we were looking at some of the variances, when you get down beyond line 9, there were variances in line 14, building maintenance, technology, repairs and maintenance, and equipment, both in the current month as well as year to date. And we looked at a number of things making up those. There were some heat pump replacements, there were expenses for plowing the parking lot, and things that may be a little bit seasonal or skewed timing wise. So I think that there's some expectation that they'll come back into line as the year progresses. But even with those, we continue to be very favorable to budget. Non-operating revenue, the interest, we're about $10,000 favorable to budget on that. On a year-to-date basis, about 5,000 for the month. I think that's all I had to say. Are there questions on that? So I think what we should do, and I'm hoping it's in that order, because we alphabetized it. If we look at the 2 check registers are attached because I think that you do have to approve the actual check registers. Looking at the first one from November 19th to December 17, you'll notice about halfway down the page, the 293,386 is in there. Do you want to mention the missing books at all? That's an interesting story, I guess. Someone noticed that the missing books, which normally when people borrow things and they go missing, we have to pay the libraries, and this was a little different, I guess.
Yeah, so you'll notice there's a large section of missing books tabulations at the top of the check register. Many in much higher quantities than we're used to seeing. There was an incident where 3 bins worth of books that were scheduled to go into delivery were mistakenly given to our book wholesaler. And by the time we caught the mistake, they were gone. So we had to repay. Some libraries were gracious and waived, said, you don't have to repay us. Some, like Albany, where they lost quite a bit, really wanted their money back. So yeah, abnormal this month, and it's been corrected. We've actually severed relationships with that book wholesaler. So, we've partnered with a new book wholesaler.
Could any of this be as a result of the no fine policy?
No,
Good.
in this month's case, no, we tied all this back to the one incident.
Thank you.
We want to look at the next check register, or are there other questions?
Sure, I have one question here. I've worked at places where, like, if the company covers something for you within a certain time period of a notice, like it wouldn't be covered anymore. I noticed Wilsenia went to the conference and was compensated for that after notice was provided that they were leaving. How did that sort of work?
Yeah, so the conference happened 2 weeks before the Wilsenia left our employee. So it was reimbursing for something that had already happened in that case.
Okay. Something to maybe consider for a policy, because
Yes.
otherwise you are paying for something with no return on it, basically.
Correct. Yeah.
And I was just curious what we got 50 Easy Pass is for.
Oh, because we're an Easy Pass
Oh, nice.
distributor. So yeah, that was.
Sweet. I was like, dang, that's a lot. Do we have a lot of like library cards?
No. We're the regular folks can come off the street and pick up their Easy Pass here.
Nice.
We have that distributor, I believe we're called.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. Those are my 2 questions.
On the second check run from February 18th to January 10th, the only thing that I noticed and asked about, and it was clarified, was that going down there's 4795.48 payment to the receiver of taxes, and it says property taxes. It's really, it's a water bill. It's not what I would consider property taxes, which when I saw property taxes, it just kind of hit me that we probably shouldn't be paying property taxes. I think that's the only thing I noticed on that one.
Any other questions on the check register for George? Are we okay with voting on these two check registers together? Okay, so do we have a motion to approve both the check registers from November and December? Give it to Marcia and second to Elish. Anything else remaining on that before we vote? Okay, all in favor of approving the November, December check registers? Any opposed? Any abstentions?
And the investment reports for both December and November, for your reference. It's funny, I'm probably the only person in the world that would have broken out a cold sweat about this at dinner today. For some reason, I was thinking about it, and, you know, the beauty of having the IntraFi accounts is that nothing's over $250,000 in CDs because that's the maximum FDIC coverage. And then we have a number of CDs invested with Broadview. And I guess it occurred to me, I've never looked to see if they overlapped at all, which would be a bad thing. So I did that first thing when I was here. And so I don't have to break out in a cold sweat, but I will check that from now on. I never thought of that before, the possibility. And it's pretty slim, I think, but it could happen. So they are unique banks and everything, so we do have coverage on everything. And I think I just commented, the rates are going down a little bit. The IntraFi account is down to 4.35. Not that that's, you know, bad, particularly in comparison with the rates you get at banks, but it was up, I think, about 5.15, maybe 6 months ago or a little bit longer. So, and the rates, we had a new CD, the last one on the list that matures out in September, and that's at 4.35. So that seems to be the rate of itself. Any questions on that at all?
Appreciate your due diligence and checking on them.
And every once in a while, I remember things that just like forgotten. So
Pete, you have the directors and department heads report.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I led off the report by discussing the payroll migration we're working on. Nothing to get too excited about, the things that make George break out in a cold sweat. This is my version of that. Feeling much better after the past couple of weeks. We're making really good progress. So I just note that as if you wonder what I do all day, right now it's that. I had planned to introduce everyone to Caroline Vollenbaugh, our new marketing specialist. As you can see, she is not here. She has unfortunately come down with the flu. Bad timing, but it is that time of year. However, if you happen to follow us on Instagram, I'm an Instagram user. You've already seen a little bit of Caroline's work. She came to us from the YWCA, so she has a nonprofit background. She also did volunteer work at a library doing their marketing for them, so she's not unfamiliar with library land. I'm delighted. She really wowed us during her interview. She understands the mission of libraries. She understands what makes this library unique. I will steal a little valor from her. She refers to it as icon marketing, the things that are unique to this building. So Rufus the cow, the fireplace, the door to nowhere, the fish tank, what have you. She is overflowing with ideas. I asked her on the end of the first day, like, so are you coming back tomorrow? And she said, I have so much work to do. I have so many thoughts for you. So she's already made a difference on our social media. So yeah, follow us on Instagram. You'll see some of her work. Speaking of Instagram, I will pass my phone around. The next topic I want to talk about was local politics. I had the honor of meeting Assembly Member Gabriela Romero this week, a newly elected member of our assembly. I went with a delegation of regional libraries to kind of just say hi and talk about, you know, what public libraries do. And she was gracious enough to post us on her social media. So I say this as a lead-in for Advocacy Day. Will be upon us soon, February 5th. That is A day that lives in infamy when all the librarians from the state descend upon the Capitol to make sure that our elected officials know just how important libraries are. Upper Hudson organizes our Advocacy Day efforts and kind of keeps all the trains moving on time. So myself, Assistant Director Natalie Hurto, and the aforementioned Caroline Bolabau will be going down as part of the Gilderland contingent. We will meet again with Gabriela Romero, and we'll meet with Senator Pat Fahey. Oh no, just turn my phone off.
I throw a little bit of mash.
I'll load it back up for you.
Careful, you're gonna start
Yeah, I
sending
don't wanna
emails.
Yeah. Slide that back this way.
I'd love
Just
to.
right across, yep.
There you go.
So February 5th, we'll begin our advocacy efforts with our local officials. I'll be meeting with Gabriella and with Pat Fahey, both strong, enthusiastic library supporters. So really looking forward to getting to meet with them. And I throw a plug in there that if any of you are interested in participating in library advocacy, let's talk after the meeting and just kind of talk through what we can do. I know Bill will cover some portions of my report in facilities, so I don't want to steal too much of Bill's thunder, but we've successfully begun the process of getting the skylight looked at. We're contracting with Mid-State Industries to come and actually diagnose the issue. Thank you. It is weather and temperature related, dependent, I should say, so they can't diagnose the issue until it's warmer, much to my chagrin. So that will be coming down the line. And then we have a couple of places in the agenda where we mention a proposal for a library book sale in April. National Library Week is that last week in April, the 23rd through the 29th. And we can touch on it in new business or in the facilities report, but I would like to propose that we hold a book sale as kind of it'll be the first time we've done it in this building. I know we've done book sales before, but our space is configured a little bit differently. But I have plenty more thoughts on that. And then a couple things, I'm gonna go off menu a little bit with things I found out after I wrote the narrative report. We are going to be getting the Wall Street Journal in the near future. We had an unexpected financial windfall. Upper Hudson took over our subscription to the New York Times, so that saved us a little bit of money, and we plowed it back into periodicals. So if you're a Wall Street Journal fan, beginning early February, we'll be adding that to the collection. And I'll also talk about something very near and dear to my heart, our aquarium. If we're still open if the building's still open when this meeting ends tonight, take a walk over to the children's side of the aquarium. You'll notice that the fish now have names. Not only do they have names, they have favorite books that they are currently reading. Kudos to Jacob from our staff, who really took the lead on the aquarium efforts. He did a really wonderful job, so I want to shout out Jacob for the work he did there. I think I'll close it there unless there are any questions about the director and department head reports.
If there are no other questions, we can move on to the committee report. Tony is not here, but he did send me a brief committee report, though he said George would probably cover most of it, but I'll go ahead and read it. It's one short paragraph. So he said the finance committee met on Tuesday. George reviewed the balance sheets, check register, and investment accounts. Any questions raised were answered by Pete, David, or Jackie. He will be finishing up the budget projections in the next couple of weeks, and the committee will begin meeting in early February to work on finalizing a budget for the year. The goal is to have the budget completed and presented to the school district by April 1st. The committee, then it dropped out, but yes, that's the update. If anybody else has anything they want to chime in on from finance, go ahead. Okay, perfect. Then on to Alish for personnel.
All right, so the personnel committee did meet. The purpose of our meeting this time was how we were going to approach the process of doing the director's evaluation. Considering he started mid-year, this is really going to be a short-term goal review and sort of the benchmark for the future annual reviews. And per Pete's request, he did want a quarterly check-in, so we'll use a similar format. We were given a sort of boilerplate sort of template to start from. which we tweaked in our meeting because while that is used for majority of the staff here, a lot of it didn't make sense in evaluating the director, and we wanted to try to streamline the process a little bit and have it be more of a narrative versus a 1 to 5, which would be kind of arbitrary to do since we're not here observing what Pete does. So we started off by going through the template we were provided by Allison, the new HR manager, and then we sort of whittled it down. And there's a copy of sort of the template we plan to use. And on the last page, which just taught me that I need to say this as a PDF before it gets printed out because it did kind of get askew. But the last page is not part of it. It's just I typed out sort of what we discussed as the process and the feedback requests we're going to be sending to committee chairs to get some additional board insight into the director's performance. But sort of the crux of it is we're going to start off with Pete doing a self-evaluation, speaking to the goals that we had set together and informed the board of. And he's going to speak to basically how he's progressing on the short-term goals, if he hit them, any long-term goals that he's making progress on, any obstacles that are in the way, because that might highlight some things that the board can maybe help assist with or something that we hadn't quite considered. And then the next section is him either adding or amending the goals that he has left. So he's got a little Excel sheet that he's tracking this all on. So we'll probably attach that to the review. And then once that's submitted to the personnel committee, we'll all review prior to the actual discussion meeting and add in our notes on basically if we're in alignment with his self-assessment, any goals that we would like to see, and then going into the assessment itself, it would be a discussion, sort of a goal setting with the new goals, and then the board would help set those priorities up. So that's basically sort of what we hope to tackle there, and that's all sort of outlined in this process. The thought being that between the personnel committee and the feedback we get from the committee chairs, it'll give a well-rounded view on our perceptions of how we feel the director is performing. At the following board meeting after that, we'll go into executive session to discuss the details with the full board. And then when we exit executive session, we'll give a brief statement more or less saying the director's annual review has been done and we found it to be satisfactory, overwhelmingly great, or we've, kind of reset our goals to, have the next year be more successful, whatever we're going to word that as. But just kind of give like a brief update so that the public's aware that it's been conducted and sort of the state of things. So I'm going to assume most people probably didn't get a chance to look at this a ton, but if you feel like there's something we missed on here, something to consider. We plan to do our review in February, and we did push our meeting out to accommodate Pete being able to do his self-assessment first and then giving us time to review and get the feedback from the committee chairs. So we'll be doing it on the 20th, I believe, which is the Thursday during the winter break from school, but all of us agreed we'd be able to make it. I'm not going to be out of town. I think I'm the only one in the group that has kids. So we're going to make that the date and then be able to come to the February meeting with discussion topics and updates for that. Any questions?
Okay, thank you for the work on that. Facilities Committee, Bill?
Right, Pete already stole my thunder on the dialogue. I'll find some rain. It's okay. On the topic of, we shifted in the previous meeting, we discussed we're shifting from the idea of murals to more of a decor concept. Mike Prospers is a font of lots of great ideas. So he's a director, and I think this new marketing director might be as well. So the idea is to put together a group within mostly the GPO employees and interested directors to come up with a rhythm for what it is they want to come up with for narrowing down what the decor ideas would be. And that will be from murals to pictures to greenery to wall tones, there's just a whole range of ideas, but it's best if the people who are working here come up with what those ideas would be and then present them. We could get some public, input on that as well after the idea that's sort of been shaped up. But, there's a lot of ideas, but the big thing is to get the process moving. That's in Pete's hands now to organize how exactly internal group is going to manage this and how they'll tap into interested trustees and to come up with that.
We're thinking about the whole library,
The whole library, yeah.
so we would have a thematic perhaps.
It's just a whole range of ideas you
Yes.
come up with. It's, the longer we sit, the more ideas come out. And so the idea is we're not short of ideas, we're not short of wall space. It's moving forward with
Yeah.
something and just given all the other things that are on the plate, this will be a pleasant process to move forward, I think, to make everybody feel good about the library and what they can do to make it a more attractive place to visit and work in.
If we were an HGTV show, we would say we're unifying our design concept.
So then I think Pete mentioned in his review that they're auctioning out, they're getting rid of the stuff that's in the Norman's Kill room right now, they're taking in space. And so then he also mentioned that we want to hold a first book sale in National Library Week. And it's going to take a bit of horsepower to get that organized from a volunteer's point of view, from a book collection point of view, from a book storage point of view, to a book sorting point of view. So there's a lot of things that need to go into that, and we're probably already a little bit behind for that type of a date. But we talked about a place to put these things, but we do have the Norman's Kill room that should be empty because the stuff that's in there is being moved out, and taking the books as we receive them on the loading dock, putting them in there and using that as a sorting space, organizing space for the book sale. So we get to see, what type of volume we get, what type of space needs we get, and then consider how does the noise work for that. But that would be one of the data points. So there are 2 votes coming out of that, just so that we could move this forward as a board of trustees. That we would vote as a board. The committee voted to approve the book sale, moving forward the book sale on that date, and to use the Norman's Kill room. So we want to put both of those ideas to the board of trustees. So we would like to vote tonight to authorize a book sale and all the publication that goes with that, the announcement that goes with that, and then using the Norman's Kill room. So
Just had one small thing to add about the book sale. So I reached out to the high school, and they have a head teacher there that gets the kids that will volunteer. So they're going to be giving us kids that will volunteer to help at the book sale, high school kids. So.
I have a question, Bill. I noticed that you were considering secondary sale of the cafe equipment. And what I want to share before you even begin looking into that, I got a phone call from Peter Hubbard, who was a former trustee, who was very influential in getting the cafe into the blueprints. And he's run a food service before. He and his wife would be very interested in making a presentation to whomever as to what they see as a viable cafe. As I said, they've done food service before. He's well aware of the report. He's well aware of the conflicts between staff and the cafe, that existed here. And, willing to do the background checks and everything else, but he'd at least like an opportunity before you sell off $100,000 worth of equipment that we paid for, to maybe give it a second shot if you think he's capable.
Right, no, okay, no, this is, I just said, let's get the data point, not actually sell it. I just want the data point so that we can compare that number versus other things. So I just want to know, is there a market for this stuff? And so that's just a data point for what we're going to do. So we haven't made any type of decision that we're not going to move forward with another cafe, although some of us are less keen on that idea than others, but this is a democracy.
Is Pete and his wife themselves interested in doing the cafe?
Yeah, I let me know again tonight. Did you have a meeting tonight?
So they
You
were
mentioned
interested
it.
in-
And I said, I haven't mentioned it, but I will tonight, so.
Okay, well, I'll take that under advisement. I don't have an immediate, response to it right now, but we'll talk about it in the facilities.
But what would be the process? Would he contact you or Pete or?
You can certainly start with me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're not gonna do a whole lot until long range planning is even.
I don't, yeah.
Maybe, cause I know we were gonna, try to figure out like a mix of like get staff feedback, board feedback, public feedback before we even do anything.
Yeah, we hadn't even agreed that we would do a cafe.
Right, yeah, that's what, yeah, cause I, no, that's part of the process. No, I think we're doing that process before further discussions.
Well, I think if he at least has the opportunity to talk with Peter and share his ideas and, see if there's even a hint of interest.
Yeah,
It's just to have all that equipment
He
sitting there and.
he can talk with Peter and, based on your discussion, you can think to bring him to the next facilities meeting and we can, have a discussion about what he has to say about it. I'd be interested to hear what he has to say, although I'm skeptical about the whole idea. So how do we want to vote for the?
That's what I was gonna ask, is are you asking that I see the vote is listed on the agenda is happening during the committee, so we can vote on it now? If the committee has approved it, it's already moved, or we can hold it until new business and vote on it then if Pete needs to address anything else.
I just had a question about the second piece about using the Norman School room for this purpose right now. Is that really something that needs a board level vote? It seems like it's like unused space right now, like that's just within like Pete's discretion to kind of use that for library functions. I don't know.
It's such a sensitive, room that I think,
It doesn't,
And I think it's, because we've had questions about what we're using that space for. I think just being open about, because if someone says, what are you doing with it between now and April? Book sale.
and if people, we've also talked about a shed or something of that nature, so this is a temporary
it's definitive for this thing.
approach, so there you go.
Proof of concept for future furniture needs.
And we moved the two together.
Okay,
I don't want to step on any more conversation.
yeah, and no, we can continue to have conversations.
I would move to.
Okay, so the committee has already voted on it, so the movement has already gone forward. Would you like to second these two recommendations, Marcia? Thank you. Is there any other comments about this, questions, anything else?
Is the book sale?
This is the book sale, so this is, I'll read this to you since it's the motion.
This is the most requested item from the
Mm-hmm.
public for the last
It certainly is, so.
4 years, so.
So I'm gonna read it aloud.
Unanimous, I bet.
Just for the purpose of the records, the GPL, so this is what the motion is for. The GPL shall hold a book sale during National Library Week at the end of April and undertake such organizational matters to solicit and organize donated books and recruit volunteers to assist in these matters. The GPL will utilize the Norman Skill Room to organize the donated books to get a sense for volume and space needs for future book sales. So we have a motion from the committee. We have a second from Marcia. Anything else before we vote?
To say the purpose of this is it's a deadline that we're putting out there. And
Yes.
As Barbara says, it's really requested, so we got to do it once we.
Once
all
we
think.
It's on
commit to what we're
record.
committed. Yep.
Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? No abstentions. Great, it passes. Good luck, Pete.
Over the top.
Governance, then, that is you, Mike.
All right, so the governance committee met on January 9th. There's minutes in your packet. The main thing it's that we have to present to you today is a new investment policy, and Marcia did most of the legwork on this, putting it together. It is largely drawn from the policies from the Albany and Bethlehem libraries with, various tweaks and, adjustments that we made to best fit it. But we also included in your packet, just for reference, the current investment policy, which if you look at it is extremely bare bones. It provides very little detail or of any kind. This one is kind of just a lot more thorough in what it's requiring. And I want to point out just a few things that's kind of significant is this is
requiring the library's financial staff in consultation with, the finance committee, the treasurer, whatever, but to formalize the way things, we have in recent, in the, last year or a little more or whatever, we've put kind of some investment practices in place that have been working well for us with the InterFi and, trying to keep our money where it's kind of getting some return and not just having it all sit in the bank, getting nothing, all that stuff. But we want to get that all kind of formalized. So we have actual approved policies in place so that the library's financial staff will take the first, they'll be responsible for kind of putting the policies together and then bringing those to the board for our approval. And then we can kind of get, have that down in writing the way we're actually doing things and just kind of formalizing things. That's kind of, I think, the most important piece. One thing while I'm on this, before we put the motion out there, George has been doing for quite a while now, the investment report as part of his monthly report. So he does the financial reports and then he's also doing the investment report. That's now being incorporated into our policy to have that be, something that the treasurer is expected to be doing on a regular basis. And I hadn't run that by George, so I wanted to actually have him quickly look at what we've listed as being included in it and make sure that it kind of meets with what he thinks about this. Yeah. So we decided that it made sense to kind of specify kind of the to some degree, the contents of what we expect to see in an investment report. And I just wanted to run it by George and see if it kind of fits. I think it's all things that he's already providing us. I wanted to see if he had any concerns about the language or suggestions on that.
I think that's good. I think it should be monthly, which
So-
is,
That was we said in there, no less than quarterly. The original language was monthly, but what came up was, well, what happens if like December, we cancel a meeting for a month and don't have a meeting? We don't want to be in violation of our policy every time we have a month where we don't have a regular board meeting. So we said no less than quarterly, with the expectation that it'll probably be a monthly thing, but that kind of gives us a little leeway. So that's the reason. Good question.
The bylaws say monthly.
But that's for the
yeah,
financial report.
exactly.
That's not for the
Yeah,
investment
well-
report. So we're kind of trying to make this match our actual
Right, we
practice.
talked about this.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But anyway, that's, so the committee voted to move this before the full board for adoption. So I guess the motion on behalf of the committee is
Okay.
there.
The motion is out there. Do we have a second on this?
Second.
Thank you, Mike P. Any other discussions, questions about this? I think you guys did a great job. Looks good. Anything else? Hey, all in favor of approving the investment policy? Say aye. No one opposed, any opposed? No abstentions.
I
Great.
just want to mention that Barbara typed it up.
Thank you. Let's see, next up is me, long range planning, and I have nothing to report and have been out sick for most of the start of this month, so I'm gonna get us back on target. We'll release the survey after I'll send an email and we'll communicate with people and get back to it. I know that Narina is not here. Was someone else going to mention for board development?
I think just that there's the survey that is on the back. She didn't say who this should go to, but maybe.
Who else is on board
Thank you.
development? That's fine with Pete.
I think I'm on it.
Oh, okay.
Did you guys actually meet or did she just put this
We
together?
haven't met.
Oh, okay.
Okay, perfect. So fill this out and we're leaving them with
Amy,
Amy
or me,
or Pete
a library person.
at the end of this so they can pass the information along to Narina and we can get
Yeah.
some board development in get our requirements met.
Yeah, she wants you to rank your top three. So I know there's a lot of things on here. You don't have to rank all of them. It's just pick your top three, rank them 1, 2, 3, and mark if you prefer to be in person or virtual. That's it.
Great.
And I think if anybody has any training they've already done, who's tracking that? The committee? Okay, so maybe let her know because I don't think she has anybody's hours marked. And I know there was a training Randall last year.
There was
roughly.
another, yeah.
So if anybody attended, there's been a couple, yeah,
Yeah.
because I know I attended one. Make sure, I guess, let Norina know the hours if that's something she's tracking to hit your 2.
Is there anything additional? Am I misremembering? Did we formally dissolve cafe investigation or is that still happening? Is there anything to report?
So we have not met, but I just, today, I actually spent a good bit of time on trying to, working on a revision of a kind of a draft that we have going. I am going to ask the other members of the committee whether, if we can find a time in the next, I would say in the next 2 weeks where we can meet and I'm hoping actually to circulate my draft hopefully by tomorrow, and then we can meet and try and just get that finished up and out of the way. So yeah, so it's in progress.
Thank you. Alicia, is there anything from the foundation?
I don't have an update unless I missed a meeting.
You did not, they canceled.
Okay, just checking. I don't always get all the emails, but, and the one prior to that was during our board meeting, so. The next one, you put in a request to move it. I don't know if you got an answer yet, but it
Nothing yet.
also overlaps with our next board meeting, so hoping they can move that so I can attend that one. Well, Pete and I can attend it.
Upper Hudson, I missed our meeting last week because I was ill, but I can just report that we are continuing to accept applications for the executive director of Upper Hudson through the end of the month at least. And then we hope to have somebody in place, at some point this spring, early summer, but I don't have anything else to report from there. There's nothing listed on old business. Does anyone have any old business? The book sale is sort of new and sort of old, but is there any other old business to discuss?
Just briefly, I just wanted to just, this is touching on something that Barbara had raised earlier about the, possible interest in new cafe vendors and things. And I just want to, I think, I said some of this at one of our previous meetings, and I'm kind of indifferent on whether we try and, get a new cafe vendor or just repurpose that space for something totally different. I can see good arguments both ways and I'm fine either way. But I just think we need to really have that full conversation before anything gets moved forward with, selling off equipment or just permanently repurposing that space for something else or whatever. We just have to have that conversation and very clearly make the decision that we are going in whatever direction we're going in, rather than, just letting it kind of happen. That's all.
Okay. Thanks for that input. Under new business, we've already covered the library book sale unless there's anything else to be stated about that right now.
Just to add, I would really love to, when we put out the call for volunteers, we're going to be looking for volunteers to sort books that get donated, to help set up the book sale itself during the weekend that it happens, which high school kids would be great for, and then also to be cashiers during the book sale. So if any board members would like to volunteer, let me know.
I want to volunteer.
I thought as much. But yeah, just excellent. Let me know if you're interested. More of that to come. Kind of our timeline, we're looking at recruiting volunteers in February, accepting donations in March and part of April, and then having the sale at the end of April.
So it's a 1 day,
I would like to do no less than 1, no more than 3.
okay, consecutive, 3 consecutive
Yep,
days?
it would be like, if it was 3 days, it'd be Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So some
It would be
permutation.
Friday and the weekend, okay.
Yep.
It used to be Saturdays and Sundays. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, I've seen success with other libraries I've worked at and other libraries in the region where they do like a members night and people can come and do a preview on that Friday night. Might be kind of a cool GPL after dark activity. I don't know, just throw that out there.
Question on
eliminating the use of the community room between 8 and 9. When this library was built, it was built so that we could shut off the main operations from the library from the community rooms. And I was wondering why we were heading in that direction rather than being more available, because we have a person on board, a maintenance person on board, I believe, and what, 11 o'clock or thereabouts, so.
The maintenance people are only here till a little after 9, was when their shift ends. So yeah, you're right. That's the second item in new business is, I wondered if that was the intention, because we noticed that when the library began closing at 8, we were still allowing groups to book until 9. The only people who are left in the building after 8 o'clock are the maintenance people, and sometimes it's only one of them, which is a little bit of a security concern.
So some context for that discussion, we approved that with having the discussion that that room stays available, because at that point, maintenance was here until 11.
Sure.
So it was a non-issue. So obviously with their hours changing, it, you know, warrants maybe an updated discussion, but that was sort of the context for that, was like, we want to make sure that space is available. Sometimes that room is used by our own programming for like later night stuff. And then I don't know what other the community uses were, but it seems like that, it says case by case basis, so it might still be fine. So I
Yeah,
don't know what changes exactly.
right. I think some of that institutional knowledge was lost between
Okay.
the turnover of our staff, because when we hired new maintenance people, we scheduled them until 9:30.
Okay.
That was, I don't think anyone knew that.
Yeah, I think 11's super late, but yeah, people used to be here late all the time, which is like our board meetings used to go very long as well. And there was 2 maintenance people here still doing things, so.
And we list it as a case by case basis because there are some, voting goes until way after 9 o'clock. Blood drives can go late. We do have some community groups that, you know, kind of have to stay here later. And typically myself or another member of the administrative team stays to make sure that they are out of the building. So it's not a blanket no, it's the default should probably be to get folks out at 8. And if they need to stay later, that needs to be talked through with the administrative team.
Could we have the conversation though that they still could use it until 9, and maybe move the staff person up to 10 o'clock instead of 9:30?
Sure, we can talk through that. It is a little
You know,
bit,
you'd have more of a record of what groups use it, and are they groups that would like to stay later? I mean, I just hate to limit that, because you were right. That was the discussion.
it's not terribly many, and most of them have spoken to us about it. Like elections, we have an obligation to stay open later.
Do you know what groups would be affected, if any?
There's a handful of programs. we
I
don't-
think less than 3, maybe, that may want. That's why it's been rarely that since I've been here, and it's been almost a year, that people have wanted it from 8 to 9. And often they were out before then anyway.
Okay.
So doing it on a case by case basis, we can still definitely accommodate that. But then we have it built in place that someone will be here,
Right.
not
You'll-
just
You'll
relying
just
on
handle that
maintenance. Yes.
Mhm.
staffing stuff. We don't have to worry about all that. So, okay. I don't have a particular problem with it. There's some flexibility. Just because that was the original approval of changing the hours, so.
And that was the context that I think a lot of our current staff were missing.
Yeah. I only know that because I was chair of building and grounds, and that was something I helped spearhead and get through, because I came here and physically stood in the library for 2 hours to see what the traffic looked like. So I remember that one clearly, but no, I'm good with that. It's, as long as it's a possibility if needed, yeah.
Is there anything else that we need on context for that new business?
Just new pen design.
Yeah.
What?
They're over in the basket. Please help yourself.
Cow on it.
I came in this morning, it was great to see that cattle fence day.
I know.
Oh, yeah, no, we are delighted. Actually, while during this meeting, I heard somebody really enjoying Groofus's pen over there. So the community is really responding well to that design.
Who came up with this?
He did actually. I gave him choices and that was the one he chose.
Okay, but who came up with the choice? Was you?
I didn't design it. Our person that handles that, I let her do it because we had so much going on at the time. I would have liked to have designed it and
Well,
maybe
good, I'm glad-
our next pen iteration I will, but
I'm glad to see you have that type of creative talent in here.
The other thing that I
could have done it.
failed to mention, during the Halloween fall period, that was the nicest display for people coming into the library that this library has ever seen.
Oh, good.
So I guess some of your maintenance people and some others helped out, but that was beautiful and beginning to spruce the things up, like maybe Valentine's Day is coming and spring is coming, and we can celebrate.
So we've got a lot of really creative ideas coming up for Valentine's Day. No surprise, they'll be around what you love about your library. So if you come in during the month, you'll probably see some hearts popping up with things people love about the library. We have a ton of creativity on our staff. Everyone is really enthusiastic about making the library as welcoming as possible. So yeah, Bill touched on it in his report, but it's about harnessing that creativity. But yeah, thank you. I'll convey that to the staff. I was really proud.
Heart candies.
Hmm?
Give out those little heart candies.
Little hard candies, yeah, get some book themed ones.
I love chalk.
Okay. I mean, thanks for bringing this to our attention, Pete. This is not something that needs an approval by the board, correct? We're
Correct.
okay. Addressing it. Is there any additional public input? If there is not, I would take a motion to adjourn. If someone is, thank you, Marcia, and a second from Barbara. All in favor of adjourning the January meeting? Okay,
This is a record.
the meeting is adjourned at 7:03. Thank you all. All right.
1 hour and 1 minute.
Yes.
My hour rule, like.
Why is it?
I know.
Here.